So continuing the number of questions that we have been discussing in the part one. So we are hereby go with the part two. The next question is critically examine the rise of People's Republic of China as a great power and its implications on Asian political order. So when you go to this question and understand that what is Asian political order, and really if China is a great power, then how it is that great? Marching of Middle Kingdom, vision of its leaders from Mao to Deng Xiaoping to Xi Jinping. As a great power due to state capitalism after Deng's reform, USA realism policy towards China to contain USSR, Ely's theory of democracy supporting stability in China, labor arbitrage for capitalist-centric capitalist countries by Apple, Tesla, political moderation theory focuses on the transformation of tradition to, you can say, modern society and nationalism. Thus, consequences are huge. Positive implications on Asian political order. China being tech manufacturing power will lead to proliferation of cheap goods for economic prosperity. China can be alternative to hegemonic tendencies of both USA and EU in Asia. Japan, Korea. China can collaborate with global South countries, G77, including India, in affecting trade, climate change in multilateral institutions. Alternative to Bretton Woods economic model, Asian political organizations, ADB and NDB and ADB. Whereas negative implications, China is not democracy, therefore it supports raw state real as per realism of Sun Tzu. North Korea, it supports North Korea and Pakistan. Trade with China cannot be based on liberal internationalist principles due to IPR issue, China firewall and devaluation of currency affecting trade value. China's China's salami slicing technique of neighborhood using checkbook diplomacy impacts the Asian political order. Philippines, Vietnam, and China in South China Sea. China it sees itself as counter to USA and does not consider India as equal, whereas India has own sphere of influence in the South Asia, thus causing friction. Galwan crisis finger palm strategy of China. So to make China more open and inclusive regarding Asian political order, functional approach is needed for cooperation. Internal balancing is required for India, surrounding neighbor, like-minded nation, diplomacy, India, access can lead to stable Asian political order. So the answer must bring into picture that the Asian political order आखिर है क्या एशियन पॉलिटिकल ऑर्डर, और चाइना ने उसको इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं किया, चाइना ने उसको इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं किया, चाइना ने उसको मोल्ड कर दिया है. एशियन पॉलिटिकल ऑर्डर इज बीइंग मोल्डेड बाय चाइना एंड चाइना वाज एबल टू create its own space because of its political ideology and because of its own political structure, which according to these theorists and that thinker, it is a raw state or it is a one party nation, and these ideas continuously got embedded in its political, social, economic, cultural, and technical sphere from Mao to Deng Xiaoping, and then you are talking about Xi Jinping, and so it's a continuity was there, and that is how China was able to create a kind of a great order, which whole world even could not realize or stop, and that is how it became manufacturing center of the world. So this idea is actually very important for us. Surendra ji. So the next question is talking about, as we see, how conceptual dimensions of collective security. So it is a conceptual. So we need to know the concepts of collective security. What are the concepts? Collective security mechanism is based on liberal idealist theory of IR, starting from Metternich system 1815, then League of Nations 1919, and new post. Very good. It's a good way. Based on security security dilemma of nations, idealistic theory focusing on human cooperation rather than war and conflict. Defense. Very good. Okay. Conceptual dimensions you are talking about, and solidarity, collaboration based on internationalist principle. It has several benefits as it is reflected. These principles are showcasing That resource mobilization, very good. Okay, fine. Sweden joining NATO is a good example. You can talk about even Turkey asking for, being part of BRICS and so forth, based on Kalpan theory, system theory. Okay, fine. Security you're talking about. Uh, Hegemonic stability, fine. League of Nations, a good example. However, it has also several drawbacks. So conceptually, it is talking. So you have to bring even drawback in the form of concept. Conceptual discussion, it is asking. What about conflict security mechanism? Greece versus Turkey. Hegemonic stability principle of nation. When the USA keeps EU nation balance within the NATO. Limitation, not limitation, unilateral decision by members in war affecting regional imbalance. Turkey versus Russia. Big power with NATO or nuclear weapon becomes, problematic to secure defense. Therefore, in reality, every country has equal sovereignty in principle, but differentiation in power is to collective security faces challenges for, uh, realities of IR of a nation. For example, US led NATO attack on Iraq 2003. So good approach, good ideas are reflected. We can appreciate this. Discuss the efficacy of global conventions to combat international terrorism. Efficacy. It is asking efficacy to of conventions. It is not asking about conventions. One must talk about why conventions are helpful or why they are not helpful. Multifaceted layers of cooperation and collaboration, which needs constant evolving framework. Okay, fine. International conventions, UNSC 1267, NPT, NSG, Budapest, Australia Group, Chemical War, SCO, RATS, Interpol. Efficacy, Universal Declaration of UNSC, and 1217. Regionalization, collaboration, for example, RAT, SCO, joint exercises, Malabar, financial sanctions in case of money laundering. Good. Okay. A lot of points are coming up. Transnational terrorism, cryptocurrency. Big challenges remain as usual. Use of fourth international relation. Use of fourth industrial revolution. One can say AI. Then new methods. Lone wolf attacks. Okay, fine. To make more effective, certain improvements is required. Definition of terrorism. Associated consensus between developing and developed countries. USA distinction between good and bad. Inclusion of state-sponsored terrorism to make state liable. Pakistan support to Lashkar-e-Taiba and JEM. New avenues of terrorism need international collaboration at large scale, joint exercises, including peacekeeping, strengthening FATF, teamwork, financial strain, advocacy via track 1.5 diplomacy, managed through think tanks. So it's a more flow, more ideas are visible. It can be, one can even speak about a certain convention and how UNSC is acting like a deadlock player or a body where China will veto something or US will veto. So status quo always remains. So that kind of a big picture can also be presented, but otherwise a lot of ideas are coming up. So it is fairly on track. But when it is written with a more speed and more fast idea, then a couple of ideas will be coming up in a different way. Main drivers of India Japan strategic and global partnership. Main drivers. Has termed India-Japan relationship as natural allies, strengthening of India, strengthening of Japan, and growth. So before that, one can bring even you. We have been speaking about. One can speak about the mutual commonality between India and Japan in terms of cultural and in terms of political understanding since the time of Tagore and Subhash Chandra Bose. So natural ally. How India is a natural ally. Democracy as per democratic peace theory. So it is not as per theory. The theory is coming up because India and Japan are able to showcase that mutual collaboration and understanding of each other's needs and also desire for a good world. India and Japan both desire for a peaceful world. So civilizational ties, not according to SP Muni, civilizational ties have played an important role as SP Muni also says or something like that. Not according to, every answer must be according to the candidate. Both have common adversaries, like that is China. So both India and it is not China which is the adversary of India and Japan, it is the Chinese policies. So that is how it is. One can play with the words. That is how all political science is all about. Beyond these, they have other drivers. Economic, Japan is getting old. So their driving is not old. Japan also wants to sustain those values which can make the whole world more mutually beneficial and peaceful, even getting up to Africa or even so forth. Partnership in economic field and even One can say that the driver is that, in spite being a non-nuclear completely state, in that sense, like the way it is the only country which has suffered nuclear bombing, it supports India's nuclear program. So one can understand the intentions. Japan can throw their money anywhere, but why only India? A lot of deep thinking goes into it. So JICA is industry investing in industrial corridor because it sees itself as an extension of India. That something of that sort can also be done. Technological cooperation, strategic partnership, national interest, respective spheres, and so forth. So they have cooperation in the field of Quad, external balancing of power. India and every country says that it is not for balancing, it is for enhancing, it is for promoting, it is not for external balancing. Nobody wants to balance China. It is not China centric. So we should also avoid writing it as long as it is not required directly. Using aid and infrastructure projects, Africa, Sri Lanka, Colombo Port, Nigeria support each other, and the global partnership is also definitely on track. Coming to the next question, what are the implications of the locust policy of the northeastern region? Very often repeated question. Can make candidates score very less because candidate knows too much. Locust policy, activist policy, integral part, Asian bloc, implication, increasing India's geopolitical stand in the ASEAN region through trade, commerce, and connectivity. Talagan, multimodal, TMT. Containing Chinese encroachment in the neighborhood affecting India's regional influence. According to Bangladesh, not Bangladesh, according to Rudolph, the modernization theory, Northeast will lead to several sectors, making regional less volatile and more stable. Connecting Northeast with main hinterland via credit, okay, Chettigam Port and Sitwe Port. Thus, Lucas policy requires massive infrastructure and diplomatic mobilization. This has been done through donor BRO, BIMSTEC, focusing on infrastructure resilience. But at the same time, as per Sushant Sareen, Luke is also focusing upon maritime development of transnational shipment Andaman and Nicobar, Sabang Port, Indonesia. Further, it requires proactive diplomacy, which needs collaboration. So, Bangladesh crisis may affect the sovereignty of Northeast due to refugee crisis. Sovereignty is a big word. If it is talking about, then you have to understand we are having enough capability to handle that. That also you should be bringing. And even if radicalization and something also emerges. So for Lukis policy to be successful, stability in Myanmar is required. Non-holistic, non-hostile Bangladesh government, development of Northeast region, connectivity, ASEAN, BIMSTEC. And one can end by saying, in spite of all the challenges which we have already been having, the rising India's persona, and the giving economic might, in spite of all these challenges, we will be able to make sure that Lukist policy becomes a jewel as far as the growth and the modernization of Northeast region is concerned. Explain the factors which justify India's claim for the permanent seat at UN Security Council. Explain the factors which can justify. India being a major democratic emerging global demand UN reforms, especially as per S. Shankar, UNSC credibility is under question due to old archaic structure of 20th century. It has failed several areas, climate change, global threat, Russia-Ukraine war, justification of India's claim. No, these came now. India had been demanding, India had been demanding a seat in the United Security Council from last 30 years. So one can say that the credibility was always in question even during the Cold War. But India was not powerful enough to ask for its rightful state or rightful place. Justification is India is representing 1.4 billion emerging economic and military power. India is one of the greatest democratic structures in the world, having lot of indirect beneficial ideas spreading all across the world. It must be there. We have what others don't have. So we have definitely people. We are an emerging economic power, but then we have what other people don't have. So that is what we have to bring when we are justifying. We are a responsible power. Not just during COVID-19 crisis, we have been responsible for because we have not yet attacked Pakistan with nuclear bomb. We could have done it long back. Vaccine, Matri, inclusion, these are just given points, but we had been asking for about 30 years, as I told you. So we are part of WTO, we are part of all other big institutions. We are pioneer in so many other ways. We are the largest contributor to the peacekeeping force also. We are integral to so many pioneer ideas in the world. Then you can say the Indian demographic dividend and Indian diaspora and also the organic growth which India had seen. So it deserves. India was the one which gave China को India की वजह से आया. India historically have supported vulnerable countries against apartheid, Vietnam, ethical leadership. So ठीक है चलेगा, but then passionate नहीं है ज़्यादा. India's member UNSC have always supported dialogue of peace, diplomacy than war. However, India's stand has been criticized by Coffee Club members. India has not signed NPT, not a member of energy. So we have to speak about factors which justify. And then in only two lines, especially not in the ending, you can talk about कि इंडिया को कौन criticize कर रहा है. बीच में कहीं आ सकता है, वो भी थोड़ा सा. There are other groups which do not agree. And then when you are bringing them, then you have to bring why India must be, these idea must be negated. कि उनको क्यों मिले जर्मनी और जापान को हम तो बोलते ही हैं कि इंडिया को मिलना चाहिए और साउथ अफ्रीका को मिलना चाहिए और ब्राजील को मिलना चाहिए. That's how it is according to Suhasini. Either India needs to approach nation case by case basis for concept of UN permanent membership. India needs to approach nation UN case by case basis. Okay, fair enough. So all the questions are over, I believe so. आप बोलिए, आपको क्या बोलिए.
कुछ इस तरह बस अपना जो आर्गुमेंट है पहले लिखना है, थ्योरी को तो लास्ट में लिखना है, और ऐसे सिंपल लिख रहा हूँ वैसे ही इसको फॉलो करना है. बस उसमें कि फ्लो में और ज़्यादा करना है, जैसे कल डिस्कस किए थे उसमें वैसे ही था, सेम इसमें भी था. तो और बाकी फिर हर एक क्वेश्चन के अंदर में जो बड़ा बात है वो पहले ही स्टार्टिंग के साथ साथ फिर इसको डॉट ऑन करेंगे. पर लिखा होता है राइज ऑफ चाइना को क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन करना है, फिर इम्प्लीकेशन ऑन एशियन जियो पोलिटिकल ऑर्डर. तो पहले राइज ऑफ चाइना क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन, फिर इम्प्लीकेशन पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव ऑन द एशियन पॉलिटिकल ऑर्डर, लास्ट में फिर कैसे इंडिया रोल प्ले कर सकता है. ऐसे करके स्ट्रक्चर बना सकते हैं हर एक में. तो बस और जहाँ कुछ फॉर्मल वर्ड है तो उसको अडॉप्ट कर लेंगे फॉर्मेट. बस
तो यही कि ध्यान दे थोड़ा सा, कहीं कहीं क्वेश्चन में जो डिमांड द क्वेश्चन थी वो थोड़ी कम थी, मतलब वो प्रॉपरली मीट नहीं हो पाई. तो उस पर थोड़ा ज्यादा फोकस किया जा सकता है जब आंसर लिख रहे हैं कि कीवर्ड्स क्या है. जैसे एक क्वेश्चन था सर, डिस्कस कॉम्पोजिशन ऑफ आईसीजे, तो कॉम्पोजिशन को डिस्कस करना है, कॉम्पोजिशन बतानी नहीं. तो थोड़ा मतलब ऐसे और ध्यान दिया जा सकता है. और मेरे को एक अप्रोच थोड़ी ज्यादा कॉमन लगी कि जैसे पर्सनालिटीज के नेम्स बहुत ज्यादा थे, तो कौशिक थोड़ा सा अपना स्टैंड ज्यादा उसको बैलेंस कर सकता है, मतलब वो चीज भी अडॉप्ट कर सकते हैं जो उसने लिखा, और कहीं कहीं अपना स्टैंड भी उसका आ सकता है सिंपल वर्ड्स में. तो वो और
Wonderful, Bharti, but a lot of ideas were there, lot of facts were there, lot of data is there. So I think that is not a problem, and there is enough flexibility and approach that it can be maneuvered accordingly. That's what we can say.
Yes.
We'll continue in the same way, and we'll look forward to more ease and more flexibility in the approach. Thank you very much, one and all.
Thanks.